Today's show is sponsored by CloudZero. For software-driven companies focused on growing margins, CloudZero is the only cloud cost intelligence platform that puts engineering in control by connecting technical decisions to business results. By analyzing cloud services like AWS and Snowflake, CloudZero provides real-time cost insights that help you maximize margins. Engineering teams can answer critical questions like, who are my most expensive customers? How much does this specific feature cost our business? What's the cost impact of re-architecting this application? With cost anomaly alerts via Slack, product-specific data views, and granular engineering context that makes it easy to investigate any cost, CloudZero is your complete cloud cost intelligence platform, connecting the dots between high-level trends and individual line items. Join companies like Drift, Rapid7, and SeatGeek by visiting cloudzero.com/cloudcast to get started today. That's cloudzero.com/cloudcast.
Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Cloudcast. We are coming to you live from the massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hope everybody's doing well. We're getting towards the latter half of January 2022 and here for another Sunday Perspective show. You know, one of the things that Aaron and I are always trying to figure out is, how do we, let me rephrase that. How do we go about, bringing greater awareness to a lot of interesting things that are going on? I mean, this show has always been about education. How do we help our audience learn about what's going on in this world, in the technology world? And sometimes we do that through Cloud News of the Week. We kind of keep you updated on stuff you may not have seen in the news, you may not have been paying attention to it. Sometimes it's through interviews. We go out and try and find really smart people that, are kind of thought leaders or doing really interesting things. From an interview perspective, those are oftentimes the Wednesday shows. We've experimented with a few different things. We've rolled out different podcasts over the years. We had done one called the Mobilecast years ago, kind of focused on mobile technologies. That didn't necessarily go as far as we thought it might. We've done things like Cloudcast Basics, which we did last year, and that allowed us to sort of say, hey, how do we maybe help bring in the next generation of people that are just new to this stuff. And that show's done very well. We probably should have figured out a way to put it into this feed, but we didn't want to. We had this sort of weird thing of, do we bring this sort of basic, simpler view of things to the people that are, all of you, very, very smart and, kind of want more in-depth stuff? Do we put it in its own feed? Do we build its own show around it? And we sort of took the latter approach, and that show's done very well. It's actually, in the first year of that one, did as well as, the Cloudcast did the first couple of years. So we were happy with that. But one of the other things that comes up all the time is this idea that, a lot of people write into us and say, hey, can we be part of the show? Can we show you something? And I want to kind of dive in after the break about kind of some ideas we have about it, maybe how we can help broaden the way that we bring more interesting things to you, the listener, but also some ways to help do things a little bit differently that I think might be needed in our industry, because there is a lot of technology out there, sometimes confusing, sometimes overlapping, whatever. And I want to kind of dive into an idea and get some of your feedback right after the break. Today's show is sponsored by Mergify. Mergify is a tool for GitHub that prioritizes queues and automatically merges, comments, rebases, updates, labels, backports, closes, and assigns your pull requests. Mergify features allow you to automate what you would normally do manually. You can secure your code using a merge queue, automatically merge it, and many more features. By saving time, you and your team can focus on projects that matter. Mergify is coordinated with any CI and fully integrated into GitHub. Check out their startup program that could give your company a 12-month credit to leverage Mergify, up to a $21,000 value. Start saving time. Visit Mergify.com to sign up for a demo and get started today. That's Mergify.com. Today's show is sponsored by Datadog. With infrastructure monitoring, distributed tracing, and logs, Datadog provides end-to-end visibility into the health and performance of modern applications. Datadog's distributed tracing and APM generates detailed flame graphs for real requests, enabling you to visualize how requests propagate through your distributed infrastructure. See which services or calls are generating errors or contributing to overall latency, and dive deeper into your production code with an always-on code profiler to pinpoint the root cause. Start monitoring your applications with a free trial, and Datadog will send you a free t-shirt. Visit datadog.com/APM-Cloudcast. That's datadog.com/APM-Cloudcast. And we're back. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, one of the things that we struggle with a little bit on this show is, we do a lot of shows. We do twice a week, so we're probably going to end up doing, 100 shows-ish, give or take, some holidays and stuff. And you would think, boy, with 100 shows a year, now granted we do 50 sort of interview shows and 50 Sunday Perspective shows, that's still a lot of topics to come up with, a lot of coordination to find with people. But quite honestly, one of the biggest challenges we have is we're kind of overwhelmed with the number of companies that reach out to us. And in some cases, it's PR groups, and that's fine. We find a lot of interesting topics that way. Other times it's, CEOs and founders of startup companies. And, in a lot of cases, it's Aaron and I sort of making a list of stuff that's interesting to us that we want to learn more about. But one of the things that we struggle with is, which ones do we include? How do we narrow down and to be honest, maybe we get 300 or 400 requests in a year to be on the show, or 300 or 400 sort of topics that are potentially floating around, and how do we narrow that down to 50? And it always sort of gives us a little bit of a sinking feeling in that are we showcasing enough stuff, right? And we also always want to be respectful of your time. We try and stay within certain lanes, if you will, sort of cloud native, cloud, new ways of doing app dev, some ops stuff, DevSecOps, all those sort of things, all the buzzwords that are in our show title, everything from IaaS to SaaS to PaaS and so on and so forth. And, so we do that. Once in a while, we do get into some other things. We did a Web3 show last week that solicited some interesting feedback from people. But one of the things that we're always trying to figure out is, how can we potentially, help those companies, right? We're very fortunate to have a great audience. Y'all are an awesome audience. So we have this great following. We have a platform that's grown over the years. How do we potentially use that to some good for a lot of different companies? We do recognize that in a lot of cases, y'all are overwhelmed with information, right? That's one of the challenges we have ourselves is people often come to us and they go like, how do you guys decide what to put on the show? How do you sort through what it is? How do you figure out, when you go from this topic to that topic to another, how do you sort through all those things? And, part of that is just trial and error. Part of that is just, us kind of constantly drinking from the fire hose. So that's sort of one dilemma we have is, how do we take this big, long list of potential things, that could be on the show and sort out, what we should put in front of our audience. We want to be really respectful of your time and again, kind of stay within those swim lanes. But the other thing that I've noticed a lot is we do get a lot of kind of overlapping things, right? So, it's not unusual for us to have a dozen, or maybe it's 10, maybe it's 8, whatever, companies or technologies that feel like they're in the same lane. And maybe it's, observability and monitoring. Maybe it's, hey, we're going to improve application development. We're going to improve developer productivity. Maybe it's, security or cost management, whatever it might be. Oftentimes one of the struggles we have is, we're always trying to say like, hey, if we covered that topic too much, did we give, one company or one technology or whatever too much airtime? Did we not give another one enough? And, that sort of is on the, what do we pick side? But the other thing I find for myself is, it's sometimes a struggle as we're trying to figure these things out. We look at people's websites, and unfortunately, a lot of times when you're starting to look at people's websites, they all tend to sort of look the same. And that's not a negative thing in our industry. It's just, when you're solving the same sort of problem, you tend to use the same words, same sort of use cases. And we realize that, a lot of companies have some pretty unique differentiation. And, sometimes they're trying to be in a lane, be in a bucket so that you can find them, but maybe they do something really unique. And a lot of times what we've wished is that, there was an easy way for us to say like, yeah, I'd love to see what your stuff does. Like I read the product sheet, or I read the data sheet, or I looked through the docs, or I looked at some stuff on YouTube and I saw, your founder talk about stuff and they seem pretty knowledgeable. But we kind of wish as technologists at heart that there was a way to kind of get a demo, right? And maybe not, a bunch of slides in a demo. I know there's ways to kind of do that. A lot of websites you go to, you have to sort of click a button and request a demo, which really becomes a sales pitch and so forth. And so we got to thinking about this, and we sort of said, hey, is there some way that we can kind of solve those two things, sort of solve those two problems with one approach and do something that's going to be useful for you, the audience. Not that necessarily Aaron and I have tons and tons of free time, but so we were thinking about this, and we're very curious about your feedback. This is sort of where we're going with this. Is we're kind of thinking about, what if we spin up something that we call Cloudcast Demos? And what it would basically be is, we sit down with somebody, and we're going to, typically going to sit down with one of their technologists. It could be the lead engineer. It could be, sort of their, field CTO, whatever. So, somebody who is not only going to be well-versed in the technologies, but also is able to sort of get hands on keyboard and show us what the technology does, and do it in a way that's, not going to be hours and hours. And, I don't want to watch anybody type in passwords, and I don't need to watch anything download and all that kind of stuff that takes up lots of time. But, in 15 minutes or so, maybe it's 20 minutes, whatever the appropriate time frame is, can you show me what your technology does? And I think one of the things that Aaron and I have become very good at over the years, having worked in a lot of different roles at companies, we've been, in the field building stuff directly hands-on. We've worked in solutions engineering and systems engineering and product management, and in some cases product marketing and other things like that. And I think we've been pretty good at kind of being like, let's get to the gist of what your technology does. Let's kind of get to the gist of what differentiates it, what makes it unique. Let's figure out if it's easy to use, if it's hard to use. And, maybe if it's hard to use, that's okay because it's solving a very hard problem. If it's a common problem, boy, hopefully it's really easy. Or, what 5 steps does it take out of the process? And so I think what we're going to start doing, we'll have to sort of figure out what the process is for this. We may just probably start doing this primarily as a YouTube thing, because obviously, demos are something that we want to see. Maybe they don't necessarily fit kind of perfectly in a podcast format. But I think what we'll probably end up doing is sort of starting this idea of, using the Cloudcast YouTube channel, which I think has about 7,000 or 8,000 subscribers already, which is a nice thing. We haven't done videos on that channel in a long time. And allow these companies to do some demos. And what we would do is, we would put them out there. We'll create a page for it off the main Cloudcast page, and then we'll include it in Cloud News of the Week. Hey, this week we did a demo with company X, Y, and Z, and they're in this domain, right? Maybe that's NoSQL databases and observability and cost management and whatever it is. And some weeks, we may have one. Other weeks, depending on our timing or what we're doing, it could be 2 or 3. And we would, find a way to easily categorize them. So if you're like, hey, I really kind of want to go, I have this problem in this database space, or we're trying to kind of solve an IAM thing, right? Or whatever it might be, you could easily kind of go there. And again, the goal would not be to, displace anybody's website or whatever. But I think we've sort of proven that we're pretty good at being like, let's explain your technology to me. Let us ask some questions, some clarifying things. I think we've dealt with a lot of technologies. And I think the format would be useful, but we'd love to hear your feedback, right? I have a really good friend who runs a podcast that's on bourbon. Some of you, if you listen for a long time, might know Kenny Coleman. And one of the things he does is he does a long form show, and that's a weekly thing. And then they do these things they call whiskey quickies. There's like 60 seconds. They actually probably run about 4 or 5 minutes. And their video, and they're, it's them kind of giving their feedback on, things in the bourbon world, which again, some of you very much may take into that, but we're not necessarily claiming that. But again, it's a format, and they end up putting the verbal part of it, the audio part of it, as a podcast feed. But I think if you really kind of want to see it, you can look at it as part of it. Now, one of the things, again, we're always trying to be conscious of is how many things do we put in the feed, right? I don't want you to necessarily feel like you're like, oh man, more stuff in that Cloudcast feed, and maybe that's not the one that's right for me, and I'm constantly deleting stuff. But we want to find some way to, again, ultimately sort of solve these other problems that we have. And they're not problems in a bad sense. They're really kind of opportunities. And again, we're really kind of looking for, would that bring any value to our audience, right? And we feel like our audience comes to us. You guys have shown us over the years that you're interested in a broad range of topics. Not every one of you cares about every topic, but a broad range of topics. We keep it to a concise format. You know how long it's going to take. You can speed them up if you want to. And we think we're fairly good at kind of being able to help guide conversations to be like, why is that valuable? Why does that solve a problem? What do you do that's unique? And I feel like, nowadays, there's so many things that come out, and maybe sometimes there's overlap with them. It really would be helpful to not spend as much time on the websites. We want to just be able to jump in and see what it does, right? And we're very lucky to have things like free tiers on the cloud and open source software and other things. But I feel like sometimes, if you work with the people that live with this technology all the time, the best of the best, we can get access, see their demo, see it actually working, see what they think is unique. We think it would be sort of a valuable thing for our community. But we'd love to hear your feedback. It's something we probably, if we do it, and we're kind of leaning towards doing it, we'd get started, I don't know, maybe in the March, April timeframe, start sort of building up a catalog so you're not starting and only seeing one. But we'd love to get your feedback. If you are a listener who, you don't necessarily even have to work for a company. You could be working on a cool open source project. It could be something that you've just figured out that's really cool that you think other people would kind of benefit from learning about. You're trying to raise awareness for it. So let us know. Shoot us a tweet or something. Hashtag Cloudcast Demos or Cloudcast Demo. Either one's fine. Tag us at thecloudcast.net. Feel free to shoot us an email show at thecloudcast.net. Any of those ways, the normal ways that you all know how to get in touch with us. But we'd love to kind of get your feedback. Does this seem like something that you'd be interested in? Is that something that you think would be valuable? Again, it's not us kind of picking and choosing winners or losers. It's really us kind of trying to offer the broader technology community, again, both, vendors, but also, people with interesting ideas and implementations, just a platform, be able to use the platform to, be able to get your message out there. So I'm going to wrap it up there. This one wasn't going to be too long, but something this is an idea we've kind of been kicking around, in that, we're always looking to bring more value to you. We've been fortunate enough that a lot of people, would like to use what we do for visibility. And we're trying to figure out some way to make that useful to you. Again, education-wise, we want to value the use of your time, be conscious of your time, and but also, maybe help cut through a little bit of your learning process or cut through your decision-making process, or, continue to bring to light some interesting things that we just kind of can't fit in a normal interview process for the podcast, right? It might make more sense as a visual demo type of thing. So anyways, going to wrap up. Thank you for listening. Again, your feedback is very much welcome. Show at thecloudcast.net, or, tweet to us, hashtag Cloudcast Demo at, the Cloudcast Twitter feed. It's in the bottom of all the show notes. Look forward to your feedback. Love to hear it. Love to hear ideas. Love to hear if you're interested in, being one of the early ones to show us some demos and talk through some things with us. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. Thanks for helping us grow the show. It continues to grow. Second month in a row here, third month in a row here. I think that we're kind of, breaking some records in terms of listener audience. So, it's great to have kind of everybody back from a pandemic, a little dip that we had in 2020 or something like that. So anyways, thank you all. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.